listening to the Narrative Podcast with Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is changing the narrative one episode at a time.
Welcome to another edition of the Narrative Podcast, everybody. How's everybody doing on this terrific Thursday? I was going to do an upload yesterday, but I'm still kind of upset. And I needed some a day to like decompress, like for our brother Marcellus Williams. Like, that was just, like, I can't say it's unbelievable because I know all too well what this system is capable of. They show us every day what they're capable of. But anyway, welcome to the Narrative Podcast. The Narrative Podcast is the home of original people. Original people peace, original people reciprocity, and original people positivity. The Narrative Podcast promotes positive reinforcement of original people and original people culture. The Narrative Podcast provides positive frames of reference about original people and original people culture. Welcome to the Narrative Podcast. I'm your host, Halsey Allen. Welcome all my narrators. So, got a pretty decent show for you this evening. My narrators, they're my target listening audience. They already know what the Narrative Podcast is about, what the platform is about, and what type of content I'll be presenting to you. But for those that don't know, that aren't familiar, this is how I bring you up to speed. Typically, the way I start things off is I promote, everything I have going on. Promote the platform first and foremost, and then some other projects I got going on. And then I provide the listening audience with a brief overview of the Narrative Podcast before diving into the content. And the reason why I give a brief overview is just to provide the listening audience with full context of the podcast before diving into the content, so they can mold through it better and digest it better. So let's get to the nitty gritty and get to the promo section. So up first, I'd obviously like to promote the podcast itself, the Narrative Podcast. The way you can support the podcast is to follow me either on YouTube or X, formerly Twitter. You want to follow me on those two mediums because this platform that I'm broadcasting on automatically uploads the finished episode to YouTube and X, formerly Twitter, upon broadcasting. At the end of my broadcast, after I'm done, it just automatically uploads to YouTube and X, formerly Twitter. I'm going to just say Twitter. I'm not going to keep on saying X, formerly Twitter. You know the deal. If you got a Twitter account, I'm going to keep saying Twitter, but, across all platforms, it's X. I just feel weird saying X. We know it's X now, but, it just Twitter rolls off the tongue better. I'm going to just say Twitter. But anyway, so, follow me on YouTube or Twitter. To support the Narrative Podcast. Now, how you support it when follow me on YouTube is you obviously subscribe to my YouTube channel. And the name of my YouTube channel is just Halzie Allen. It's my viewer channel, Halzie, Hallzie, Allen, Allen. And then you want to click subscribe. And then at the top, after you subscribe, you want to click the notification bell. And then you want to click notification all. And then you will be thoroughly notified every time a new episode of the Narrator Podcast debuts. And then also, after you have subscribed to my YouTube channel, every time an episode of the Narrator Podcast is uploaded, you want to click the like icon. And so if you're unfamiliar with YouTube, the like icon is the thumbs up. You want to click the thumbs up icon. And then you also want to comment on the newest episode of the Narrator Podcast, and then share the Narrator Podcast across all platforms. You know, whatever platform that you enjoy sharing content to, share the latest episode of the Narrator Podcast to that particular platform. And that's how you support the Narrator Podcast when following me on YouTube. Another quick thing I want to make you aware about supporting the Narrator Podcast. Why wait till after I'm done telling you on Twitter? But then also for YouTube instructions, that is my viewer channel. So you want to look for the new episodes of the Narrator Podcast in my videos. I mean, if you subscribe to the channel, you should be alerted. But they're in my videos. So that's the only thing I have uploaded to YouTube is episodes of the Narrator Podcast. They're all in chronological order. So that's how you support the platform when following me on YouTube. Now when you follow me on Twitter, you have a different set of instructions, or actually the same, but just kind of more. So you want to follow me on Twitter at Halzie Allen. I stay good at Halzie Allen. All lowercase, no spaces. And you know when you have arrived to the correct page, you should see a copy of my book pinned to the top of my page, and it's titled The Black Card. So once you see that page, you know you're on the correct page. And then when you see the link to the Narrator Podcast, you want to click on the link, obviously. And then you want to, after you've clicked on the link to the Narrator Podcast, you want to click the heart icon. That's the like button, is the heart icon. So click on the heart icon, and that should fully expand the banner to the Narrator Podcast, which is basically just a picture of a microphone, and it says the Narrator Podcast on it. So after that has expanded, you want to click that heart-shaped like button yet again, and then next to the heart-shaped like icon, you should see a picture of like a clock. I still don't know the purpose of that, but ignore that and leave me a comment in the comment box. That's the comment box is next to the like clock icon. And then next to the comment box, after you left me a comment, is the most important thing you can do for the Narrator Podcast. That is the download button. The download button is an icon in the shape of a cloud. It has an arrow pointing down. You want to click that to download the episode of the Narrative Podcast. That helps me the most with, the algorithm and the views and everything. That's the best way to, the most effective way to help the Narrative Podcast is to click the download button. Remember to download this episode and all previously recorded episodes of the Narrative Podcast wherever you get your podcast sources from. So now, and then of course, after that, share the episode of the Narrative Podcast to all platforms, whatever platform that you like uploading content to. Make sure you're uploading episodes of the Narrative Podcast. So, yeah. Now, the next thing I want to just ask for my visual content creators. If you are a visual content creator, meaning like, when you're uploading content, you're behind the camera or in front of the camera, just remember to shout out the Narrative Podcast, hosted by me, Halsey Allen. And then also when you're downloading episodes of the Narrative Podcast, make sure you're downloading from the correct platform. They should all be hosted by me, Halsey Allen, because there's literally thousands of podcasts out there titled the Narrative Podcast, but I'm the only one that matters. I'm the only one that's actually talking about something worth talking about. All the rest of them is like internet hacks, relationships, and But the Narrative Podcast is here for the people, my people, original people. So yeah, that's just what I wanted you to be aware of about the Narrative Podcast. And then also, before I promote my next thing, I just want you to be aware of my format style. I have two format styles. I have a weekday format style, and then I have a weekend format style. Now, obviously, today you will be hearing the weekday format style, and basically how I do the Narrative Podcast is I divide all of my speaking points into sections. So during the weekday, I have 2 sections of content, and then on the weekend, I have 5 sections of content. So I break down each section, and all the sections have speaking points, and I tried my very best to time each section. So yeah. So this evening you will just be listening to 2 sections of the Narrative Podcast, and on weekends 5 sections. All right, now on to my next thing that I would like to plug. The next thing I would like to plug is my book of poetry that I've written. And the name of the book of poetry that I have written is titled The Black Card. And The Black Card is a 30-page book of poetry written by me, Halsey Allen. And what it's about, it's basically it's 30 poems that capture the essence of our people. It's basically an all-encompassing view of us as a people. Everything we go through, everything we experience as a people, positive and negative. I believe the correct term is a retrospect. So it's a retrospective piece of literature. Basically, it's just chronicling the experience of, being black. That's why I titled it The Black Card. So it's, equipped with everything we go through as a people. If you're an original man or an original woman, you'll automatically identify with each and every piece that is listed in the book. They're compelling, they're heartwarming, really eye-opening and creative. So you will enjoy reading the book. It'll be like the ancestors are calling out to you to, read that book, turn them pages. It's a real nice read. You will enjoy The Black Card. And people outside of our culture, you don't have to be left out of the experience as well. If you consider yourself open-minded or progressive and like learning about different cultures, you can also, read The Black Card and, gain better insight into our world and help you connect or feel, a closer connection to, a black person in your life, somebody, maybe a co-worker or a friend, a distant relative, a family member. I mean, a distant relative is a family member, but a distant relative, somebody that's fairly close to you. Of course, you will never, ever in life understand what it is to be one of us, but, you'll be more informed. You'll have your horizons broadened, and it'll be a good experience for you as well. If you're outside of our culture, it can be a great learning tool for your children. Definitely, it's a good read for an educator. You can teach a class, on poetry styles or the linguistics of our people. But like I said, it's a good book, worth reading, worth checking out. Currently, it's only available on one medium, and it's called Poetizer.com. Poetizer.com has a virtual online bookstore. So you want to visit Poetizer.com and go to their virtual online bookstore and look for my title, The Black Card, and it's written by me, Halsey Allen. So go to Poetizer.com and purchase your copy of The Black Card today. Or get your Black Card revoked. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Poetizer.com, it's basically a social media platform for writers, specifically poets. It's implied in the title, Poetizer, but it's also open. It's also an open forum for other writing genres as well. Essay writing, short stories, even journal writing is accepted on that platform. So, it's just basically for people that enjoy writing to interact with one another, socially interact. You can DM people, you can write stuff on their wall, critique each other's work. Got all kinds of activities for people that enjoy writing on that platform. They also have self-publishing software. So if you want to get serious about your craft, take your craft to the next level, they have an option for the members of that community to, write a book. They do everything. They make hardback or softback versions, market it, sell it. Basically, they offer all the same services, all the major ones. But Definitely go check out my title, The Black Card, written by me, Halsey Allen. Go to poetizer.com, visit their virtual online bookstore, and look for my title, The Black Card, or get your black card revoked. All right. And last but not least, I would like to plug my personal poetry blog on blogger.com, and it's titled Halsey's Poetry Corner. And basically it's just like a mini blog where I just free form poetry. The unique thing about the poems featured on that blog is that they range from a wide array of topics. You know, they're diverse. Pretty much anything you experience in life, you're guaranteed to find a poem on Halsey's Poetry Corner to commemorate that experience in life. It also commemorates emotions as well. You know, any type of emotion you can feel, there's like a poem for that. And it's for everybody. Anybody that likes to read poetry, like anybody from any background, you know, ethnicity, nationality, whatever, they can read one of my poems and, you know, identify with either a line in it or an entire piece. So to go check my poems out on blogger.com, go to Halsey's Poetry Corner at www.mrhalseysblogs.com. So like I said, the poetry on there is just versatile, ranging from a wide array of topics. Another unique thing about the poetry featured on Halsey's Poetry Corner is I did not contemplate on any poem posted on there. I wrote them totally off the cuff in the moment. So I didn't contemplate about, you know, each piece. I didn't plan out what I was going to title each piece, what I was going to write each piece about. The inspiration legit just flowed to me. So, you know, it's just raw kinetic energy, you know. So you would definitely enjoy reading the poems featured on Halsey's Poetry Corner. And the way you support Halsey's Poetry Corner is to visit Halsey's Poetry Corner blog on blogger.com at www.mrhalseysblogs.com. And then once you've arrived on the blog site, read the poem, like the poem, and the like button on that blog site is in the shape of a heart, so click on the little heart, and then next to the like button you should see a comment box. Each poetry piece on that blog site has a comment box. Write me a quick little note, you know, give me some feedback, let me know what you like, what you didn't like. Your opinion matters. And then also share the poem on Halsey's Poetry Corner across all platforms. And then I say the same thing that I said for the visual content creators, that I said, you know, for the Narrator podcast. So for all my visual content creators, please shout out the Halsey's Poetry Corner. You know, Halsey's Poetry Corner, or if you've read poems on there, a poem that you like from Halsey's Poetry Corner. But whatever you do, you know, shout out Halsey's Poetry Corner. And that's how you support, you know, Halsey's Poetry Corner on blogger.com. And one last thing about it, I do have a tagline for that poetry blog. It goes like this: Hallzies Poetry Corner, poetry with a passion, poetry for all occasions. And when you read a poem on that, from that blog, you will see that, that's a fitting tagline for my poetry blog, because literally the poems on there are that versatile. You'll automatically connect to them. You'll find there's, you can connect to a line or a poem that you can connect with in its entirety on that blog site, guarantee you. Now, there are many poems on there just specifically for our community, black community, original people community, but for the most part, anybody can read it and appreciate it, and, it'll resonate really deep with you upon reading poems posted on Hallzies Poetry Corner. So that's it, and that's all. That's all the projects that I have to promote this evening. So go check those out and support them, especially the Narrative Podcast. Remember to download this episode and all previously recorded episodes of the Narrative Podcast, wherever you get your podcast sources from. And now I'm going to dive into a brief overview of the Narrative Podcast before diving into the content this evening. So starting at the top, Tippy the name. I named my podcast the Narrative Podcast as I don't like the false narrative that the media weaves about original people and original people culture. I don't like the way they portray our images and our likenesses across all forms of media. I don't like the way we're portrayed across all forms of media. So what I wanted to do to counter, the inaccurate, divisive portrayal of our people is design a platform where I'm highlighting our successes and I'm encouraging positive reinforcement of our people and our culture by providing positive frames of reference about our people and our culture, because the media only provides negative frames of reference about our people and our culture. So that's in essence what the Narrative Podcast is about. My mission statement is to bring awareness to the listening audience of why it's important to responsibly utilize your platforms to share frames of reference about original people and original people culture. And when I say original people, I mean black people. I get to, why I say original people a little bit later on in the breakdown of the Narrative Podcast. But, I just basically want to use the platform to, bring awareness to people of why it's important to, responsibly utilize their platforms to share positive frames of reference about original people and original people culture. And also want to encourage the listening audience to responsibly utilize their platforms to share positive frames of reference about our people and our culture. And when we do that, we can alter their perception of original people across all forms of media, thus changing the narrative. Hence the title, The Narrative Podcast. So it's not the end all be all solution, but it is a solution. And I think that's a perfect segue For my tagline for the Narrative Podcast, the Narrative Podcast, changing the narrative one episode at a time by destroying negative stereotypes about original people and original people culture. How do I destroy the negative stereotypes about our people and our culture? By providing positive frames of reference about our people and our culture. And that's entirely what the Narrative Podcast is all about, providing positive frames of reference about original people and original people culture. Now, the next thing you need to be aware of is I call my target listening audience my narrators. And the job of a narrator is basically to tell a story. That's what the definition of narration is. You're telling a story. And the reason why I call my target listening audience my narrators, your job as a narrator for this podcast is to tell the story of our people from a positive perspective. And the reason why we want to tell our story of who we are as a people from a positive perspective is basically because, number one, it's accurate. We are positive people. We do positive things. We engage in positive activity. That's who we are as a people. And then number two, that will help counter the way the media inaccurately and maliciously portrays our images and our likenesses across all forms of media. So that's what I mean when I call my target listening audience my narrators, just basically utilizing our platforms to, tell the story of our people from a positive perspective. Sharing positive content about your people and your culture on your platform. That's what I mean when I call my target listening audience my narrators. And then so just to kind of further contextualize what I mean by narration, how to properly narrate the story of original people, your people, black people on your platforms. An example I always use every episode, we're living in the digital information age. We all interact with one another and communicate with one another online. We gather information. We assess, what we want, what type of information we want to take in as a people based on a profile page. Your profile page or the bio section will tell you everything you need to know about the content that you're about to view. And then once you've read the bio section, usually more times than not, you're going to see positive visual images that complement whatever the person's page is, whatever they wrote in their bio section is a perfect way to complement what is written in the bio section about said page. The positive visuals are just so vivid and captivating. They perfectly illustrate, what the page is about. So say, for example, in my bio section, I wrote I like cars, in my bio section. Then I'm going to upload visual imagery to illustrate my like or love for cars, depending on how, big a fanatic you are of motorized vehicles. So on a person's page that likes cars, they're going to upload visual content of them enjoying their car that they own, cars that they've driven in, them at car shows, probably raceways, washing the car, fantasy car. They're going to upload powerful, visual, impactful images that support what is entered in the bio section. And so when you do that, you're telling or narrating your own story. That's what we do online. We tell or narrate our own stories. So the type of story we should be narrating when it comes to our people is a positive one. Because the media narrates a negative one with the visual content they upload across all platforms to represent our people. So while we cannot control what people outside of our culture, how they view us, as what they think about us, how they respond to us, interact with us, react to us, how receptive they are towards us, we can't control any of that because they're just reacting to the negative content that the media gives them. But what we can control is the type of content that we're putting out. We can tell or narrate our own stories on our own platforms. And the story we should be telling as a people is a positive one that is reflective of our true natures. And what is our true natures? Kings and queens, gods and goddesses of the universe. That's how we should be reflected across all forms of media. That's how we should, look at television and see a king or a queen. We should watch a movie and see a god or a goddess on that screen. Not a pimp, not a whore, not a gangbanger, not a degenerate, despot, lowlife. That's how we're portrayed across all digital platforms. This is the picture that the media paints of us, that we're lazy, that we're violent, that we're trifling, that we're poor, that we're all, unintelligent. So when on our own platforms, we need to be telling the complete opposite story of that with the visual content that we share. We shouldn't be, embracing the negative stereotypes and the stigmas that they place over us. We should be, just the opposite of that on our own platforms. We should be telling our own story from a positive space. That's why I call my target listening audience my narrators. And we want to narrate our own stories because if history hasn't taught us anything, it's taught us this. If you don't tell your own story will be told for you. And the media is telling our own story for us and they're telling it from a negative perspective. Now, the next thing you need to be aware about the Narrative Podcast is a positive space. Positive safe space for original people to feel prideful about themselves, to feel proud, about the progression of our people, how far we come as a people. You're going to constantly be reminded about who you are on this platform. You're going to be constantly reminded about all the good things that we're doing in the world. Everything we're doing right. It's all about empowerment, upliftment, edification on this platform. I don't engage in negative gossip, slander, none of that. No foolishness. I am a podcaster, so with that, I inform and, deliver entertainment to a degree. I have a little chuckle here and there, but never at the expense of a brother or sister that's going through it in the media for something negative, even if the negative thing they're in the media for that they technically bought on themselves. I'm not here for that. I don't encourage it. I don't encourage that. I actually try to discourage against that. But basically, this is a positive, safe space. I do deliver commentary on here. I'm a podcaster, so I obviously deliver commentary about, I commentate on whatever is going on in the world, whatever is, going viral on the internet, whatever, trending topic there is. But when it comes to our people, if we're trending, and we're usually trending for something negative, that's about the only time I really bring up people's name from our community. Other than to inform you something that has happened to one of our people for like a non-celebrity. But, when I do speak about a famous person's name, it's from that perspective, and the way I try to break down their situation, I try to break down their situation from the bigger picture perspective, meaning, what's at play, why are they in the media for this negative thing that's happening to them. And the two major things that's usually at play, which we can really kind of trace back to all negative things that happen to our people in our community. The two big things you can always link it back to is systemic oppression and psychological programming and conditioning. Now, the systemic oppression is having lack of resources afforded to us, being ostracized from, conducting the type of business we need to conduct to keep ourselves independent, having to, jump over hoops to stay in the independent lane. Just pointing out that they keep on, every time we make advances, they want to pull the goalposts further back and make it harder for the next generation. So that's that factor. And then the other factor is being psychologically programmed and conditioned with the media. That's a form of psychological warfare. It's not an accident that all the imagery we see of our people are all negative. It's not an accident the news is negative in general. It's not an accident. Nobody likes watching the news. The news is so depressing. But when it comes to our people, it's super duper depressing. It's not an accident that we have just like this PTSD. It's not an accident that we have the fight or flight. How negatively we view ourselves individually. How negatively we view each other. They programmed and conditioned us to do that with the media, with all these imageries, it's basically like a big social experiment. They've literally done everything to us. They've medically experimented on us. They've put stuff in our food. They lace subliminal messages in our music. They put like visual imagery in our movies about us. To psychologically bring forth a reaction from us. So, it's not an accident that the crime rate in our communities are so high. It's not an accident that we're, checking out of here early due to health because of all the food deserts we have in our communities. So, it's a whole lot of psychological programming and conditioning at place. Usually, when one of our people is in the news for something negative, there's some psychological things going on that have been implanted in them to behave the way they're behaving. So while we can't blame all our problems on the government or the air quotes the white man, we can blame a good 80-90% of it on it. But that's the perspective on how I unpack it when I'm talking about, people from our communities. Never to, bash them or drag them through the mud or nothing like that. I'm just, unpacking it from the bigger picture perspective. Next thing you need to be aware about the Narrator podcast, I try not to exceed 1 hour per broadcast. I try to keep the content short, sweet, brief, and to the point, because I don't want to bore my listening audience to sleep. I want to make it informative, empowering, impactful, uplifting, and captivating. So I can't captivate you if I'm boring you to death. I'm just talking and talking and talking and preaching at you. That's not my intent. I don't want to beat you upside the head with the message. I just want to deliver the message. I want to make my content practical and digestible. So I try to keep it as brief as possible. It's really kind of hard to do on the all audio platform, but I try to keep the rambling down to a minimum. And then last but not least, I know you heard me say it time and time again, original people. I refer to our people as original people versus black on my platform. And the reason why I do that is for a couple of reasons. Reason one is historically accurate. And then reason two, it unifies us as a people. So what do I mean by it's historically accurate? Well, we were and are the original beings of this world. We were here thousands of years before any other civilization you can name or think about. Not only was we here first, we originated everything first. Any modern day invention you can think of, it can be linked back to us inventing it. There's an ancient version of it. Then coming in the modern day with the industrial revolution in North America and abroad, our people, guarantee you, inventing and building. We originated everything. We originated spoken language, written language. We were the original architects. We were the original inventors, philosophers, builders. Well, I guess the architect is a builder, but you get my drift. We originated everything. So that's what I mean on the historical accurate part of it. And then also on the unity part of it, there are so many different types of us, hailing from so many different land masses. Original is just basically an all-inclusive universal term. So no matter what language you speak, no matter what piece of land you come from, no matter how dark your skin is, no matter how light your skin is, you are an original man or an original woman if you are black. We can all trace our lineage back to the original point of origin. We all have large concentrations of carbon, aka melanin, and then we all have an unspoken bond. We all, are fighting the same battle, just in a different way. We can all relate to each other in an unspoken way, like, the same way people from other cultures can. But, at the end of the day, we're all original. Now, and before diving into the content, one thing I just really want to point out, I do every episode just pointing out the false narrative of slavery. I've been doing this for a while. I've been having many examples of it, but basically the biggest false narrative when it comes to our people, especially black people or original people in North America, is, that we all came from slavery. And that couldn't be more false. While slavery happened, it was real, it was brutal, they were not nice to us. We didn't get to whatever landmass we occupied via a slave boat. You see, we was already 9 out of 10 originally inhabiting that landmass. The Moors was over in Europe thousands of years before slavery. There were African tribes everywhere, large concentrations of us in the Mediterranean, on the continent of Asia, all throughout Europe, on every island you can think of, the Bahamas, the Pacific Islands. Every landmass you can think of, there was large concentrations of our people. And we didn't all get there because a colonizer dragged us from Africa and took us all the way to Europe or parts of, Spain, Cuba, or wherever, like we was already there. So that's the biggest false narrative that they keep on pushing about slavery, is that we all, got to wherever we're located in the world on a slave boat. They just kept on for thousands of years going to Africa, getting African slaves and dropping them off in different parts of the world. You know how, like, it sounds ridiculous in nature when you think about it. Is that even possible? First of all, let's talk scientific. Do you know how many times the earth has changed since the beginning of time? Since we were, the only way you could get around is to sail on a boat. Before, like, we had cars and planes and trains and automobiles, where the only way you could get somewhere is to sail somewhere. The earth changed 7 times all throughout creation. So meaning, like, Egypt wasn't where it was, 1,000 years ago. Like where it is now, it wasn't located, there thousands of years ago before, whoever drew a map and put it right there. It was somewhere else. The landmass that the colonizers called Africa wasn't there before they start, where it is now, before they drew the map. And vice versa, meaning in some intellectual circles, they say this North America was actually Africa, and they support it with all kinds of, intellectual data, because we do have architecture here in North America that's, we got pyramids here that are older than pyramids in Gaza. But said all that to say, there's a lot of false narratives about slavery. That's just the biggest one, that we all got to wherever we got in the world because we were transported there on a slave boat. It's just not true. The biggest reason why they do that is it's like, again, they want to use history to manipulate our emotions, to get us to feel some type of way. They want to basically fearmonger. They want to project this image of us, as being a savage, as being unintelligent. They want to just say, well, you guys were slaves. They want to have that, feeling of superiority over us. That's what slavery kind of represents to the people to tell the story of history. That's why they call it his story. Get it? And in his story, we were weak. We didn't try to fight back. We were easily overpowered. We were unintelligent. We was easily tricked. We was easily duped. When all throughout slavery we rebelled, against slavery. Like, do you really think we only had one Nat Turner and one Harriet Tubman? Are you kidding me? Do you know how brutally we used to beat them too during slavery? But they want to project us this docile, fearful image of us. Oh yes, master, please. Ours to do it. Ours to do it. That's the visual image that they want to project and implant in our minds. That's the visual images they want to implant in other people's minds about our people. They want to focus on slavery, but they want to, sidestep all the kings and queens and rulers we had in different lands. Huh? all the rulers in Central America. Look up the history of Queen Calafia. All the great rulers we had. They don't want to give us credit for that. They don't want to give us credence for that. You know, our impact on Asia, our impact in the Mediterranean, in Greece, in Rome. They don't want to give us our credit for that. They just want to make us, the fearful slave, you know, that was under the white man's heel. Or the Europeans, as it were. Another false narrative, this is specifically about our people. The Native American and the Black Indian. Like, first of all, like I said, we was already here, the majority of us. While slavery did happen, all of us did not get here on a slave boat. The majority of us was already here. Some of us came from Africa. But typically, they didn't even have a term for native. They didn't have that. They had either mulatto and black. That's what they had. They really wasn't calling Indians Indians yet, or Native Americans. They was calling them like mulatto or black. Then when they coined the term Native Americans or when they coined the term Indian, they was allowing just straight up white people to change their lineage. They called them $5 Indians. And that was for tax purposes. But like there are so many like original indigenous tribes, like the ones on the reservation. I'm sorry, a lot of them get mad. The ones with the long silky hair, but you know, not even copper skin. They look kind of more Asian, if anything. Those are not the original Native Americans. They came from somewhere else. Most of them came from Siberia. They the Mongols. They came from colder climates. Our people, we was here first. But anyway, I didn't want to get too long-winded. I just wanted to point out that false narrative about slavery. It's literally just billions of dollars still that they accumulate from circulating that false information and those false images. So the plan is just basically to keep us fearful. That's why they invest so many billions of dollars making these slave movies in Hollywood. They want to keep this image alive of us on, you know, slave boats and being fearful and not challenging authority. And not fighting for something that is rightfully ours. But anyway, that's all. I just wanted to point out the false narrative of slavery. We're going to dive into the content this evening on this weekday edition of the Narrative Podcast. So as I said, this is a weekday edition. And on my weekday edition, I have two sections. The primary goal of the Narrative Podcast is to share positive frames of reference about our people and our culture. And the positive frame of reference that I share during the weekday is positivity. And the positivity comes in the form of positive news articles. And the reason why I feel it's important to share positive news articles during the weekday is because we're constantly being bombarded with negative news during the weekday about our people and our culture. All forms of media. We don't get a break from it. It's intentionally done. And the reason why they do it is to, desensitize us and make us accept a lifestyle that is contrary to our original nature. When we're behaving and act like that, acting the way they portray us in the media, that is just the opposite of how we are originally. Because like I said, we regal originally. They got us behaving like we ain't got no sense. We violent, ignorant savages. We disrespectful to ourselves. We disrespectful to our women. Women are disrespectful to brothers. We disrespectful to our children. That's how they portray us on the news, in movies, in whatever, literature. They got us living in violence, just behaving in a degenerate manner. And that's not who we are as a people. So during the weekday, I like to provide positive frames of reference about our people and our culture, just to, give us a positive perspective, a positive window into our lives, and put out positivity in the atmosphere to, attempt to change the landscape of the way our people are portrayed. So during the weekday, I'm giving you stories about, us triumphing in the face of adversity, us excelling in some form of academia, being the best, being entrepreneurs, leaders in our community, just, conveying the sentiment that positive things happen in our community and that we positively affect, impact, and change the world. So now that you know what the positive news articles are about, I'm going to dive on in to my first positive news article on this weekday edition of the Narrative Podcast. First positive news article, the headline reads, Sha'Carri Richardson, former high school, named track after her. And her former high school was Dallas Carter High. This was on September 20th at the Kincaid Stadium. It's a part of Dallas Carter's Jesse Owens Athletic Complex. The sign now displays Sha'Carri's name in bright white lettering and includes a plaque honoring her accomplishments. That's really kind of all the article said. It was just one of those byline type ones, but essentially, the high school was honoring her. Um, I think a little further on in the article, it said a quote from her. This track is where I started my career. So yeah, her high school is honoring her for her athletic accomplishments, and it made me feel good to find that information or come across the information, because the young lady has really made a complete 180 from where she was just a few years ago, everything that she was going through in the media, the way they tried to destroy her and, tarnish her reputation and put all these things on her. But she took control of her life. She got buckled down, got some discipline, and kicked much butt in the Olympics. And I think she took that experience and learned something from it. Because even though, they was treating her different, like complaining ain't gonna get you nothing, she just showed improvement. Sometimes that's just what you gotta do. You gotta show and prove. Because, like, they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. Just like they're doing what is that one sister? They're doing her dirty now. Dang, what is her name? Right on the tip of my tongue. Dang, what is her name? Jordan Childs. Yeah, doing our sister dirty. Jordan Childs. But they, like I said, they know exactly what they're doing. But complaining ain't how you beat them. You beat them with, you beat them with performance. Because they're going to cheat you every single chance they get. But when you play the game so good, they can't deny you. No matter how hard they try to cover up your accomplishments and your achievements, the truth always shines. The truth always shines through. And that young sister is the truth on that track, and she's showing and she's proving. And, she's now worthy, I feel. Not that she wasn't never worthy, but now I feel she has matured in living up to the legacy of, people like that came before her. Wilma Rudolph, Jackie Joyner Kersee, and all the track and field legends that came before her, because they just, they exuded femininity and carried themselves with poise, dignity, and grace. And she's carrying herself with a lot more poise, dignity, and grace. Because they had her on that first year, they had her looking super crazy. She toned down her looks a whole lot. I think just getting older, more mature. So that's beautiful, man. That she, has really just did a whole 180 from where she was at. So join me into giving our sister Sha'Carri Richards a Warm Narrative podcast round of applause for her latest accolades. All right. Up next on the Narrative Podcast, on this weekday edition, the headline reads, 41-year-old black mom moves to Italy to escape U.S. home prices, buys a house for $62,000. The sister's name is Stephanie Sinclair. She's from Atlanta. In 2012, after quitting her job of 10 years in corporate marketing, she explored global options through a Facebook group she was a part of. So, she's in a Facebook group about Mussolini in Sicily, known for Mussolini, and she got there because Sicily was known for selling homes for as low as €1. So she ended up closing the real estate deal in March of last year. And that's really kind of all the article says, but I think that's really kind of cool because everybody kind of complains about America, but legit, we don't have to be here. And no, we don't got to go back to Africa because half of us ain't from Africa no damn way. But you already know what they say about Sicilians. But fun fact, us being original people, there was large concentrations of Africans in Rome thousands of years before the slave trade. So join me into giving the Warm Narrative podcast round of applause to our sister, Stephanie Sinclair, for being brave enough to make that leap of faith. And up next on the Narrative Podcast, this is the last positive news article this evening. And the headline reads, Black woman owns a company that makes $3 million per year delivering for Amazon using 38 vans. And the sister's name is Sophia Struthers. Sophia Struthers is from Austin, Texas. She got a really interesting story. It was super long, so I'm just giving you the highlights of it. But she had like a really interesting path. First of all, the article kind of says, well, a different article was a combination because I was trying to always go a little bit more in depth. And sometimes when I come across these articles, it's just like the headline of the article in like 2 or 3 sentences. And so that was kind of that deal this evening. I had to go, to like 2 different sources to get this information. But basically, her story is interesting. She escaped from being sex trafficked. She became a single parent mother at 15. She earned a bachelor's degree at 20. And then she started her own real estate real estate agency called Trustworthy Consulting Only. And then she went on to own 2 homes as a result of that. So, in 2018, she came across this article written by Amazon offering people to become partners with them for an investment of $10,000. So she applied for the delivery partnership, and she got all the way up to the interview stage. They was hosting the interviews in Seattle, Washington. But being a single parent mother, and she really didn't have stable income yet, because she still had most of her money tied up in her real estate thing, she had to pass on that. But as luck would have it, they reached out to her about, a few months later, like 4, 5, 6 months later, in an email, and asked her was she still interested in partnering with them for that opportunity. And then of course she said yeah. They said they had like they was having a function, interview type situation. It was more like a mixer, a meet and greet rather, in Las Vegas. So she went out to Vegas for their meet and greet, and bada boom, bada bing, her business is born. So she got a courier business called L2E Industries LLC, and what it stands for. So it's L2E, the letter L, the number 2, and E, LLC. And what it stands for is Learning to Excel. So that's the name of her business. So she took that $10,000, and then they made like over $700,000 within the first year of revenue. Like the second year, she had over $1 million in sales. So, and now her industry, she's like over 3 in sales currently right now. Of course, she faced some hard times. She had to pivot a couple times. Her business wasn't doing so good in the first year during the, they had to brave the elements. They had a real bad snowstorm, wiped out half her fleet. She got to a point where she couldn't pay herself. She just had to only pay the employees and pay for the trucks and pay for business options, her business to operate, her operating expenses. She couldn't afford to take in profit for herself, for her own cost of living. But Amazon worked with her to get her some resources to get her through that transitional period. And, look at her now. So, that's a really good story about triumphing in the face of adversity and about being an entrepreneur. So, like, you're going to have them type of days. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur until it's time to be an entrepreneur. And that's kind of one of those things that come with being an entrepreneur. Some days, like, you're going to be up on the hog, and then someday, it might be one day when you're sleeping in your car. Like, one day you'll be up in the loft or in a mansion, and then the next day you might be sleeping in your car or somebody's couch. So that's like the not fun part about being an entrepreneur that all these entrepreneur online gurus don't tell you about. It's like you can literally like lose it all the next day. But she gambled on herself and she won. So join me into giving our sister Sophia Struthers a warm narrative podcast round of applause for L2E LLC Industries. And if you want to know more about, what type of services they offer, you can go look them up at L2EIndustriesLLC.com. And their mailing address is 388 Exchange Boulevard, 125 Hutton, Texas, 77834. Or telephone number 512-98-6249. And then I believe she still has her real estate company as well. Or I guess not. I think she moved away from that just to put all her eggs in, that basket, the L2E LLC. But yep, let's clap it up for him one more time. All right, that's it, and that's all with my positive news article this week on the Narrator Podcast. And now on into my second section of the Narrator Podcast. This is my current event section. I call my speaking point section. It's kind of self-explanatory. What I'm talking about in this section is speaking current events, what's going on around the world, on the internet, within our community, just like recent news stories, or a recent news story or stories I feel worth talking about. And the purpose of me doing that is that's me controlling the narrative, because the media have us looking and sounding all kinds of crazy. So whatever's happening in the world, on the internet, within our community, I unpack it from our perspective and what's that mean to us as a people and as a community. How we should feel about it, or how does it pertain to our world? That's why I do commentary. Sometimes when I don't have anything to talk about, I might do a PSA, and my PSAs are just basically observations that I notice about our people, things we need to work on as a people. And by we, I mean me too. And sometimes me especially. Sometimes they're just really out loud notes to self. But tonight I do have something I want to speak about. Unfortunately, it involves a young brother who has lost his life most recently. And it's becoming an alarming trend, because this is like the second one this year. I think a few weeks ago, we just got through talking about, I believe the young brother's name was Javion McGee. So now we got another hanging victim. And this time it's a young brother by the name of Jacoby Lindsay. And this happened in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, at a basically like an orphanage, Homes of Hope for children. So this was supposed to be a safe house for young, like, runaways, orphans, or whatever. So I don't quite know how he ended up at that spot, but basically he was approaching 18, and then after 18 you have to leave anyway. So you can only stay till you're 18. I don't know like what age he entered that, but basically, they had him in a fetal position, hanging from a fetal position in the tree. And so, they immediately tried to say he did it himself. You can't do it yourself. You can't use that defense of suicide if you're in a fetal position. I'm gonna say it one more time. They found him in a fetal position whilst hanging from a tree. I don't know a whole lot of it. The gentleman that broke the story, he's done two feeds. I just really on some real stuff on a scroll on my IG, and then the brother he's doing it. He done did the work. So the movement is called Justice for Jacoby, and it involves the Homes of Hope for Children. And the brother that broke the story, I think his handle online is called Prophet Ruben. Yeah, Prophet Ruben on Instagram. He's the one that broke the story. I think I can pull it up. Let me try. All right, so here it goes.
In front of Tim's elementary school, swinging from a tree. I also told you guys how the grandfather was sent a picture, and it was a godsend that somebody actually sent him a picture for proof before they try to get up here and say that it was self-inflicted. Now, the original video that I did is this one right here. Go over there and check it out. I gave some details in that, but didn't have a lot of information. Now I do. The picture that was sent to the grandfather shows that Jacoby was in the tree swinging by a rope, and he was in a fetal type position where rigor mortis has set in. Now, everybody knows that when you hang something from a hook, from a tree, whatever, with a rope, anything, it's going to dangle. It's not going to be in a fetal position. Somebody did this to this young man. Somebody did it. I also spoke about somebody that got arrested that is attached to Homes of Hope for Children. So I found out that information. And then also, we're going to do a call to action to the mayor, to the police chief, to the board of directors, everybody down there until we get answers. We want a thorough investigation. Because when the story first came out, the news and several other people were told that this was self-inflicted. We not falling for that mess. Now, the one that got arrested is this guy right here, Michael Garrett. Michael Garrett, I found interesting. I found very interesting that it says that he stepped down, resigned, or got fired from being the executive director over this program. But what I'm scratching my head about is Michael is the founder, and he was the director for Homes of Hope for Children, which is a private children's home in Purvis, Mississippi. And what I've learned from positions like that, when you are a founder, you don't really step down. You just get out the way, but you still have a lot of say in a lot of things. Now, back last year, Michael was arrested because he was charged with having possession of illegal narcotics and procuring street walkers. And during that press release, they try to say that he is no longer affiliated with that organization. I find that hard to believe since he is the founder. He created this organization. And from what I'm understanding, a Richard Gianni was named the interim executive director. Now, I want you to pay attention to this area right here, because right down here, where this tree is down here, is where he was found at. But I went down through here, searching and stuff. I'm not going to point it at any houses or anything like that, but a lot of the houses had Ring doorbell camera. Well, not Ring, but, doorbell camera. The school has cameras and stuff, so somebody saw something. Somebody saw something in this area. Please come forward. Please come forward, because We're not going to allow anybody to get up here and cover this up. We're not going to allow you to get up here and try to say he did this to himself. Somebody has camera. Go in there and look. You don't even know if you have it or not. From one side of this street all the way down to the next block. Need everybody to look. Need to look your stuff up. Somebody did something to this young man. Now, I was looking up that story about the ex-director, right? And I saw this comment right here. There's several others like that, too. But I saw this comment right here, and you guys, when you was...
All right. So I just basically wanted you guys to hear the story because it's all visual. It's on Instagram. And the brother bringing you that story is a brother by the name of Prophet Ruben. That's his Prophet Ruben. I believe it's an underscore. That's who broke the story. I haven't heard about it. There's so much going on in the world, but you know, we have to be diligent with, you know, reporting and sharing news like that. It's not, you know, recycling trauma. This is just making you aware. Because if you don't hear about stories like that, they'll just slip through the cracks and nothing will happen. You know, who knows if we would have heard about our brother Marcellus Williams, you know, last year. If we would have heard his story last year, they came up with the, you know, call in to the governor thing the month that he was supposed to be executed. But, yeah. So they also just found a young brother weeks before this named Javion McGee, also hanging from a tree. So it's like, how do you say it without really saying it? This is becoming an alarming trend all over America. Like, as the old saying goes, ain't nothing new under the sun. And history can and does repeat itself. So, you know, we just had a sister last year in October. Yolanda Ubrin hanging from a tree. Now they found that sister in her underclothes. She was in her bra and panties hanging from a tree. But they try to say she did it to herself. Just makes you think. Just really makes you think. I have no further words. I'm going to keep you guys informed as I hear more developments. If they, when they do get a call to action going, you will be the first to know. After I know here on my platform, I keep you fully informed about the developments of this latest situation with this young brother, Jacoby. So put it all over social media. Justice for Jacoby. His last name is Jacoby Lindsay. Justice for Jacoby. All up and down your platforms. You know the deal. Hashtag revolution. Justice for Jacoby. Justice for Javion McGee, another hanging victim. So, yeah, that's really all I wanted to do to speak about this evening, is make you all aware about Jacoby Lindsay. And so, you know, we have to stay vigilant, when it comes to news like that, because they'll think it's cool and they'll become comfortable, and it'll start occurring more and more frequently. They'll start coming out in droves in broad daylight. So we just really have to stay vigilant and keep our eyes open and our head on swivel, because this stuff is never going to go anywhere. It's here to stay, and the only way we can overcome it is with unity. We're past the stage of enlightenment. We can't enlighten people outside of our culture about this anymore. The knowledge is out there, the information is out there. If you're ignorant about this type of stuff, it's because you want to be ignorant about this type of stuff. We're literally living in the digital information age. You can find out about lynching. So, we got to protect ourselves, protect our children, protect our women, protect our neighborhoods, and stay vigilant, stay focused with all this, other stuff that's really not important to get sensationalized. We can't let stories like that slip through the cracks. So we just have to, keep our peepers, be aware. When we see stories like this in our timeline, we have to, make it, known to the rest of the world. Because I Googled it like 8-9 times, still didn't find anything. I spelled his name, I put Hattiesburg, I put all that, and nothing was popping up in Google. But thank goodness I saved that video, and I keep you updated and posted on further developments for Jacoby Lindsay. So that's where I'm going to end it this evening. Join me this weekend for another full episode of the Narrator Podcast. I may do another upload tomorrow. I try not to do, Friday and Saturday back to back, because I want to try to do reasonable uploads. I don't want to, start recording at 9 and don't have it finished till like midnight. So that's what usually tends to happen when I try to do a upload on Friday and then try to do a upload on Saturday. So I don't know, but you can stay tuned in. Just keep your ear to the podcast streets. I may do an upload tomorrow. I'm not promising I'm going to do an upload. I'm going to just say I may. But if I don't do an upload tomorrow, join me this weekend for a full episode of the Narrative Podcast, and join me all next week for weekday episodes of the Narrative Podcast, wherever you get your podcast sources from. And remember to download this episode and all previously recorded episodes of the Narrative Podcast. Once again, justice for Jacoby Lindsay, justice for Javion McGee. Justice for Yolanda Ubrin. They never did, get justice for her. That was last year. They found her hanging from a tree. And many more. There's been more hanging victims before that too. I just can't think of all of them right now. Just those are the only ones that coming to mind at this moment. But justice for Jacoby Lindsay, justice for Javion McGee, justice for Yolanda Ubrin. But this episode of the Narrative Podcast is officially a wrap. That's it and that's all. Join me this weekend for a full episode of the Narrative Podcast. I'm Halsey Allen, I'm changing the narrative one episode at a time. I'm asking you to help me change the narrative by becoming a narrator. While I'm changing the narrative on my end, one episode at a time, as a narrator, you can help me change the narrative on your end, one social media post at a time. Until next time, Halsey Allen and the Narrative Podcast, signing off, and it's like that.
Listening to the Narrative Podcast with Halsey Allen. The Narrative Podcast is changing the narrative one episode at a time.